Welcome, beautiful souls. So today we're going to go through one of my favorite poses, which is pigeon pose, which I often see very flexible, quite young instructors give as a hip opener. But in my personal experience, it is best having done some preparation beforehand, because if you're like me and you've probably got deep hip sockets, your range of movement is never going to move past a certain point. So you're probably never going to find you just drop into it with ease. Doesn't mean you can't do it, doesn't mean you can't get benefit from it, because it's a Marmite pose. People either love it or hate it, and you usually hate it because you struggle with it. So if you've done pigeon before, oh God, I hate pigeon pose, see how you feel when we've done the preparation work. We will be needing a block and a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, a rolled up duvet or like two firm pillows, because they want to be kind of like reasonably long, will also work. And pigeon pose has so many benefits. It like literally stretches out your hips and the thighs, which can release tension in your back. And it's also a great emotional release, because we hold a lot of emotional tension in our hips. So it's great for releasing emotions. So I just want Mr. Felix with us today. So I just want you to take a moment, either come into a sitting position or just come onto the floor into a shavasana. I'm not going to be here for very long. I just want you to simply notice how you feel around your hips, around your pelvis, and the rest of your body, to be fair, how you feel overall. You know, I always get my students to check in before class so they can see the effects of the practice. Because it's not about, you know, we don't do poses in order to get good at the pose, we do it to be good to ourselves. So simply noticing how you feel right now, whether your back feels quite tight, whether your hips feel quite tight, or sometimes you may not notice much to begin with, but afterwards you're like, oh, actually now I feel blah, blah, blah. So noticing how you feel energetically, noticing how you feel emotionally, without judgment, without criticism, without wishing anything were different, just simple curiosity. And taking a nice deep breath in and let it go. And so we're going to move through a range of movements and poses to help increase our mobility in our hips. So you're going to start off bringing the soles of your feet together. Pull your butt cheeks back a little bit to tilt the pelvis forward. If you can, kind of bring your feet closer. Notice how far my knees are from the floor. That's, you know, I might stretch a little bit further, but not much further. So we're going to do a slow butterfly. So you're going to bring the knees up as high as you can, then press them towards the floor. The whole time breathing nice and deeply. Don't hold the breath. And so us humans tend to avoid the things that we find challenging, the things that we tend to find slightly uncomfortable. And so even though I have deep hip sockets, I always actually like hip openers, both because I maybe need them. And so they help to release tension. And if you think about it, our normal movements are with the hips, legs in a closed position, which is why a lot of people tend to end up needing hip replacements, because they're repeating the same patterns of movement over and over again, and we literally wear through our joints. So that's another benefit of hip openers, in that we work on the range of mobility, releasing any tension and improving the strength around our hips and thighs. So keep breathing nice and deeply. It might start to get a bit challenging, but just breathe through it. So make sure you're not holding the breath, which is what we sometimes do if things are a little bit difficult, right? We tend to hold the breath, which just brings more tension in. And release the feet forward a little bit, light fist, and just gently massaging your inner thighs, make sure your fist is nice and relaxed. Then grabbing your block or a cushion, sitting on it, and coming to Sukhasana. Now I see a lot of people, they cross their feet at their ankles. I want you to try and have your shin, so I've got my right foot in front, shin parallel to the edge of the mat, and see if you can try and cross in the middle of your calf muscles. So instead of crossing at the ankles, try and cross in the middle and try and aim to flex your feet. You're on the side edge of the feet so that you feel the stretch and so that you're already starting to rotate the thigh bone in the hip socket, which is the same kind of shape you're aiming for in pigeon pose. So if you need more than one block, that's okay. So people tend to forget that this is a pose as well, and so it needs as much time, attention and practice. So flexing the foot as much as you can, that also helps to protect your knee joint. And already here I can feel a stretch in my outer hips. I'm getting acupuncture at the same time, getting claws stuck in me. So I'm already feeling a stretch in the outer hips and thighs. Take a nice deep breath in, spine nice and tall. As you exhale, relax those shoulders. I'm going to take a little twist when he lets go of my arm. So just taking one hand to the opposite knee. So we're trying to make sure that you're trying to press the knees out, or at least relax the knees out, rather than bringing them up. So the other thing you can do is place blocks or cushions underneath your knees, so you feel like you've got something to press down into. Then inhale, come back to center, and exhale, take a little twist around the other side. And as you're doing that, make sure you're not pulling on the knee. So imagine pressing the knee out. Then release to that corner. Breathe in. As you breathe out, hinge from your hips. So hinge from your lower back. So rather than collapsing from the middle, imagine stretching forward from your lower back, leading with your chest. Inhale, release a little bit. So each time you're relaxing, you're stretching from your lower back. So rather than collapsing in the middle and rounding, think of leading with your chest. So you feel that stretch back in the opposite hip. And I find sometimes as things are challenging to kind of come in and out, means there's less tension. Whereas if you try and force anything, then you end up holding tension. And you may notice that I'm stretching a little bit further each time, because I'm not trying to force, because otherwise the body puts the brakes on. Yeah? If you try and force too much too soon, the body will literally put the brakes on. So feeling that stretch in the outer hip, but it's not, it's mildly uncomfortable, but not enough to kind of stop me breathing. And that's why I say use the breath as a guide. Hey, Shadow. And don't worry if you don't come this far down. Just inhale, ease off a little bit, and exhale. So you're offering the body the opportunity to open up. You're not trying to force anything. So it's an invitation rather than you must do X, Y, Z. Also look after your knees, listen to your knees as well in this position. Because that's another thing, I think people focus sometimes on their hips in pigeon pose and ignore the knees. And this time walk the hands around to the front. Again, don't worry if you're not as this far down. Take another breath in. And exhale, release. And start to walk the hands in or curl yourself up, whatever works for you. Then we're just going to switch. You're just going to bring the other foot in front. Again, try and cross so that your shins are parallel. So you've got a little triangle here. I can see the ground in front of me here, whereas if the feet are in like that, I can't. So again, do the best that you can. You can use more blocks. You can sit on higher blocks if you wish. You twist to that side that you just did, lifting and lengthening, loosening up the spine. Again, flex your feet. Imagine pressing the knees down, so make sure they're not kind of squeezing up. Relax around your hip flexors. Inhale through center, exhale, twist the other way. Release to that corner. So even if you can only barely put the hands to the floor, that's okay. Each time you exhale, again, imagine hinging, stretching from your tailbone. So not collapsing from the middle, as if you're trying to bring your belly to your thighs, whilst keeping the sit bones pressed into the mat. You want to feel the stretch in your hips, but also in your back as well. So this compared to this. So even if it feels like you're not moving very far forward, focus on keeping the spine straight, and you've still got that shape of pigeon pose with your legs. You can tuck your chin in slightly, and inhale, easing off the brakes a little bit, and exhale, stretching a little bit further. Now focus, you will stretch a bit further each time, even if it only feels like a millimetre. So again, don't focus on where you've got to go, focus on where you are right this minute. And knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. And release the hands, start to walk the hands around to the front. Take another nice deep breath in, feel your heart expand. As you exhale, feel your heart melt down towards the floor. And start to curl up or walk the hands in towards you, coming up to sitting. Release your feet, come off your block, just pop that to one side for now, and just open out your feet, resting on your hands, trying to keep the chest lifted. You're just going to drop one knee in and bring it back. So you can exhale, drop one knee down towards the floor, and inhale. As you bring it back, try and think of pressing the knees out slightly. So exhaling, dropping one knee, and inhaling back. So if you're really kind of stiff in your hips, this will be good for mobility. So we've got fluid that flows around the joints, but just like the car engine, we need to actually be moving the body for the fluid to start flowing. So this is literally to loosen up your hips, and you can stay with that one, or you can start to take both legs. Inhale through, exhale as you drop both knees. And there's no rush, no hurry. Now once you've got that, you can try it without using your hands and start to twist a little bit. So as you take the knees down, you're starting to turn. You might even bring in a little twist. Because quite often I find that, bringing in movement is better than being kind of rigid, than kind of like holding a pose and trying to be rigid about it. Again, pausing for a second in each position, flexing that front foot. Inhale through center, and exhale the other side. This time stay here, make sure this front foot is at a 90-degree angle. Take that back leg back a little bit, and then just kind of like hinging forward and back. Then that invitation, so your front leg is kind of in a pigeon pose, and just again testing the water as it were, and you can bring in a little bit of movement, you can play around with it a little bit, and there's no kind of hard or fast rules. Explore how it feels, explore where you need to release. Imagine breathing into the hip sockets, breathing into any tight areas. Trust that your body knows how it wants to move. We just need to get out of our own way. Coming up and switching to the other side. So again, the front leg parallel to the front of the mat. Try and take the back foot back a little bit. Again, just explore. Don't always just assume if it felt okay on one side, it's going to be the same on the other. So again, play around with it. Take a little bit of movement. Again, we're designed to move. We're not designed to be kind of static and still. We're designed to move, and one of our problems nowadays is because we spend too much time being still, sitting in one place, sitting in a chair, sitting in a car, that kind of thing. And then coming back to center. Bring your feet in. Have your feet flat on the floor. And you're going to take your right foot and you're going to place it on the left thigh. Then just have your hands behind you. Flex this right foot, but try and gently press that knee out without twisting the pelvis. Sometimes what happens is you push the knee out and the pelvis twists. So you want to try and keep the pelvis still and just gently press the knee out using your inner thigh muscles, and then lift up through the chest. When you feel that you've kind of like relaxed, or you can breathe into that outer hip, then you can maybe bring the foot in a little bit closer, or move your sit bone closer to that foot. So you're almost bringing the shin to your chest. Again, you can add a little bit of movement. Good, nice deep breaths. So sometimes I find myself being still, other times I find myself kind of naturally, without thinking about it, bringing some movement in. So again, there's no kind of hard or fast rules. You might even take the leg a little bit kind of side to side. I would say to my students, like, imagine like when you were kids and you get a new toy or a new computer or something, and it's like, oh, what does this do? Let's see what this does. Let's try pressing this button. And it's almost like your body is kind of like the same thing. It's like, okay, let's see what happens if we do this. And sometimes it might be like, yeah, no, actually, no, that doesn't feel good. So I'm going to do something different. Good. Easing off a little bit. Undo that leg. Just take a moment here to simply notice how one side feels compared to the other side. And then do the same on the other side. So bring the left foot up. Always keep in mind that one side is typically stiffer than the other. So feel your way into it. Don't just go, oh yeah, it's fine on the other side, and rush in. So again, feel your way into it. Breathe into it, and if you find yourself moving a little bit, that's okay. Flex this left foot, spread out the toes. That also helps to protect the knees. And if it feels okay, you can start moving a little bit closer. But if you start to tense or clench, either around the hips or thighs or around your face or jaw, then ease off a little bit. You know, in yoga poses, it's not always a case of more is more. Sometimes less is definitely more. Sometimes the bigger challenge is to kind of ease off a little bit. Yeah, just play around with it. Bring a little bit of movement in if it feels okay. And again, not just focusing on your hips, but your knees as well. So looking after your knees as well as your hips. And coming out, nice and gently stretch your legs out and just give them a shake out. Feel the thigh bones kind of rolling in your hip sockets. And then just circling out your wrists. And around the other way. And just interlink the hands and just gently going from side to side, stretching out the wrists and squeezing your fingers. Then shift out the hands. We're going to come onto the hands and knees. As always, if you need to put padding under your knees, go right ahead. If you need to elevate the heels of your hands, you can do. You can roll the mat up or pop them underneath the heels of your hands. Either squeeze the fingers together or spread them out and just try and press into the whole hand. Knees under hips, but slightly narrower. And just do a couple of little cat stretches. So inhale, lift the tailbone, draw the heart forward, stretching the front of the body. And exhaling, arching up, tucking the tailbone under, bring your chin to your collarbone, stretching the back of the body. And inhale, flex. And exhale, arching up. And come to a flat back position, relax the shoulders, draw your belly button, and keep the arms straight, but try not to tense your upper back. So if you need to bring your knees closer together, you can do. We're going to open the knee out. Now as you do that, be careful you don't bend the other elbow. So keeping both arms straight, then lowering it back in. So exhale as you lift, hold for a second, try and keeping that knee up. So try not to drop the knee in, lift it up like a little doggy at a lamppost. And inhale down. So engaging the core and working the muscles around your hips. And you'll also feel it in the knee that you're stood on as well. So again, you're holding it for a second, again, checking that you're not bending the elbows. So you press down firmly through your hands. Again, without tensing the upper back. This time, exhale, bring the knee up. And then imagine bringing it towards the elbow. And then as if you're taking it across the body and back. So opening it out to the side, bringing it as if you're bringing it to the elbow, and as if you're taking it across the body and back. Once more, side, knee to elbow, across the body and back. This time, take the leg up. Again, as if you're doing a circle. At this time, bring the knee in towards the chest. Open it out and around. Going super slow so that you can't use momentum. You can't just throw the body around. Keeping that breath flowing. One more here. Then hold that leg up. Inhale, lift that leg up, stretch the front of the thigh. Exhale, bring that knee to the elbow. Hold it for a second. And then step or carry that foot outside the hand. Come off your fingertips. So come off your hands onto your fingertips. Walk that foot out a little bit. Turn that foot out and try and relax that knee as much as possible. So you can use your elbow if you like to press that knee out. Then inhale, ease off a little bit. Exhale, press. Again, stretching into the hips and inner thighs. And see if you can bring your hands down to the mat, to your elbows down to the mat. Don't worry if you can't actually do it. And just gently rock a little bit side to side, trying to relax that inner thigh, stretch out the inner thigh as much as possible. After your next exhale, start to walk the hands in a little bit. Bring that foot back in and take that foot back. Bring your hands back under your shoulders. Now tuck your toes under. Then you're going to lift that foot and you're going to take it out to the side. Then you're going to open that knee out and sink back a little bit. So you're opening that knee out to the side, foot flat, sink back towards my left heel, on my left heel. Then come back, drop that knee down, lift the foot up and bring it back to where you started. So lift that foot up, swing it out to the side. So you're stretching out to the hip before you go anywhere else. Then you lift that knee, open it out, bring the foot flat to the floor thereabouts, then hinge back. As you sink back towards your heels, try and open that knee out, relax your head. You come forward, now bring that knee back to the floor, and bring that foot back to where you started. Once more, so inhale, open that foot out, so you'll twist in the hip before you go anywhere. Exhaling, lift and open, stretch back, relax your head down. You're going to try and make sure this knee isn't dropping in, so keep it open. Now come up, bring that knee down to the floor, and bring that foot back. Untap the toes, little cat, stretch, inhale, and exhale, arching up, breathing in there. And out. And then find that flat back position. So do the other side. So you breathe in, and bring your knees a little bit closer. As you breathe out, lift that knee, hold it for a second, and both arms straight. And inhale down. So again, you'll feel it on both sides. So as you lift it, make sure that you're not bending or twisting through the arms, so both arms stay straight, eye gaze looking down towards the floor. So we're stretching and strengthening. Remember, it's about stretch and strength. This time, lift that knee up. Bring it as if you're bringing it towards the elbow. Then taking it as if you're taking it across the body. And then bringing it back to the start point. Exhaling, lift it up. Inhaling, bringing the knees as if you're bringing it towards the elbow. Exhaling as if you're taking it across the body. And inhale, release. Last time. Exhale, lift. Inhale, bring the knee in. Exhale, take it as if you're taking it across the body. And inhale, this time lift that leg up behind you. Lift it up, stretch out the front of the hip. Breathe in, breathe out, bring the knee in and circling it around. Going slowly, so you're not using momentum. It works more muscles because you can't throw the leg around. And now lift that leg up. Exhale, bring that knee to touch your elbow, then step or carry the foot through, come onto your fingertips, walk that foot out a little bit, turn the foot out, and try and relax that inner thigh. And you can use your elbow or hand. As I said, if you need to add some padding under your back knee, do so. I've got about 3 mats here, so I've got a bit of extra padding here. And feel that stretch on your inner thighs. And then either bring the hands to the floor or come down onto your elbows. Again, you can do a little rocking if that feels good to do so. After your next exhale, bring in the hands, walking the hands in, bring that foot in and bring the knee back. Just come up to sitting and then grab your bolster or whatever you may be using as a bolster. So you want it kind of quite long and firm because you're going to sit, so I'm going to start on my right side, although my phone does sometimes tend to turn it around. So you're trying to want the whole thigh from your butt cheek to the knee on the bolster. Then start to bring that foot forward. Flex that foot. Don't worry if you can't bring it all the way to a right angle. If you're kind of like a little bit in, that's okay. And just, again, just a little bit of movement to try and relax around this back hip flexor, because there's no point. I see a lot of people trying to do the pose and they're tight in their hip flexors, which is no good. You know, they tend to fixate on the front foot, front leg, and forget about the rest of it. So again, you might want a little kind of twist, or again, whatever feels good for you. Then you're going to start to take that leg back. Now you might get just there and start trying to roll a little bit, as if you're going to bring that hip forward, noticing if you're tensing as you do that. So again, just kind of like coming and releasing, so it's that invitation, so you're not forcing. Because you know, it's like when you try and push someone, they resist, right? Whereas if you just get a little nudge, then they might kind of go where you want to go. Not that I'm saying you should push people around, but you know what I mean. And you can try and stretch that leg back and start to turn that hip. So again, if you need to bring this foot in a little bit, do so, but keep flexing the foot strongly. So if you find that you really can't relax your hip flexor or your lower back, bring that foot closer to you and then start to roll. This is why we need quite a firm bolster here, so the whole thigh is on it. And keep stretching through that straight leg, as if someone's got a hold of your foot and they're stretching it back. And so you're imagining bringing your left hip towards that heel. And you can, as I sometimes do, hold on to the foot. I quite like to hold on to the foot. And then once it feels okay, so it might feel uncomfortable, as in it's challenging, you can really feel like you're doing something, as long as you can breathe through it, breathe into it. And you'll feel that stretch in your outer hips. Because I see so many people trying to do pigeon pose and they're tight, they're up like that, they're gripping, and it's just no point, there's no real benefit if you're doing that. So keep stretching through that back leg, don't forget about that back leg just because you're not looking at it. Firm up the thighs, imagine trying to drop that hip. If you can, maybe walk the hands a little bit around to the right, around to the side to stretch out that hip flexor. Just make sure your back knee doesn't come off the floor. And after your next exhale, release, come back. Ease off, bring that foot in, leg in, and then just switch to the other side. And one side will often feel a lot easier than the other. So, but play around with it. Don't rush. Don't just drop into it. You know, kind of still go through the stages, because sometimes one side is really a lot tighter than the other. And it's by kind of like just dropping in that you may end up injuring yourself. So again, flexing this foot, making sure your whole thigh is on the block, the bolster rather, starting to stretch that leg back and beginning to roll that hip. But make sure you only roll it completely when that leg is straight. So here, I feel a little bit tight here, so I'm going to bring my foot in just a little bit and feel into that because it was pulling on my knee a little bit. So by just bringing that foot back a little bit, it stops. And so sometimes the other thing we do is we tend to focus on the hips and forget about the knees. So there should be no pain or discomfort in the knees either. So this side might feel a little bit tighter for me today. So again, I'm not making any rush. So although I can do pigeon pose without preparation, it doesn't feel anywhere near as good as if I've done preparation. So I've been teaching quite a long time now, and I've not met many people who can just drop into it without preparation. Again, you can bring in some movement, turning through the other upper body through the other way. Imagine pressing that back leg, press the top of the foot down to the floor. Imagine trying to press the front of the thigh down to the floor. Squeeze your butt a little bit. And gently releasing, coming back. Come back onto your hands and knees. Keep the bolster close by. And we're going to step the right foot forward again. Adjust the back knee if you need to. Front knee just slightly behind the ankle. So if you're landed a bit like that, wiggle the foot forward so that you're kind of in a good position. Turn the foot out again. Walk the foot out. And again, come down into that lizard stretch. But this time, what you're going to try and do is you're going to bend your back knee. You're going to try and reach around and grab the foot. If you can't quite manage that, then just either hold on to the trouser, or you can wrap a belt around the foot, or you can just bend the knee like that and reach back as if you're trying to hold on to it, or you can just leave that bit out. But you may notice you feel more of a stretch in your hip flexors. So fingertips to the floor, or you can use a block to have your hand on. That knee relaxes out. And try and press the foot into the hand as if you're really trying to straighten the leg, open out the chest a little bit. So stretching out the hip flexors. So it's quite a strong stretch. Again, breathe into it. So don't hold the breath. If you hold the breath, you'll end up with more tension. And gently release that foot. Bring the hand back. Now make sure you've got your block handy, which I didn't do. So let's just pretend I was organised. You can try and walk that foot across and come down into your pigeon pose. You're going to take your block and you're going to pop it underneath that hip. So almost like we did a minute ago on the bolster, but instead, and you might notice that my front foot isn't quite as out as it was before. So if I try and bring it further forward, it hurts my knee to roll right, and I end up feeling tension elsewhere. So I'm just going to bring it back in a little bit till I can start to roll my hip across. Again, I can feel it a bit in my knee, so I might move it a little bit further, so then I can drop my hip across and keeping the back leg straight, then try and lift through the chest as if I'm stretching from the crown of the head through to that back toe. So tighten up the thigh muscles of that back leg, relax the shoulders, open through the heart, nice deep breath in and out. Releasing, release the block, come back, slide that knee back. Now we're going to step the left foot forward, help it if you need to. Yeah, make sure that ankle is just slightly forward of that knee. Walk the foot out, turn the foot out, drop it out, and try to relax that inner thigh. Then bend your back knee and try and reach back with the opposite hand. Again, if you can't quite reach it, hold on to your trouser or wrap a belt around it, or just reach back with the knee bent. If you can grab hold of it, try and grab hold of the ankle rather than the foot and pull the foot back, so that as you pull the foot back, you start to open out the chest and you start to feel it in your hip flexor here. And just taking a breath or two here, heart open, shoulders relaxed. And gently release that foot. Start to walk that front foot across and come down into your pigeon pose. Go gently Then take your block or blocks, place it under your left hip. Now you can always come back into this variation as well, this 90-90 variation. So if you're finding you feel pain in your knees or hips, or you're kind of like up like that and there's room enough to park a bus under there, then come back to that 90-90 position. And again, just going to rock a little bit side to side. Notice how it feels on this side, this time. Stretch back through that foot. And imagine pressing the top of this back leg into the floor. And lift through the chest, relax the shoulders. Nice deep breaths. And you might find you can bring that foot a little bit further forward, as long as there's no pain or discomfort. So don't have an end goal in mind. See it all as a journey. So often we get fixated on an end goal instead of enjoying the journey. And after your next exhale, release. Bring that leg through, release your bolster. So I'm going to do a part 2 because I think that's enough for today. So you can, if you wish, come down onto the floor. You can hug the knees in if that feels good. Flex and point the feet a couple of times. And either release the legs, have the knees bent, or stretch the legs out, palms up. Just find a position where you can rest for a minute or two and just noticing how you feel right now. How does it feel in your hips right now? Remember what I said at the beginning, don't be surprised if you do start feeling a bit emotional. I was talking about it the other week, and one of my students came out and said, is that why I seem to feel kind of like, when I do pigeon pose? And it's like, yeah, because we hold tension there so that, and when we release it, because let's face it, on our day-to-day movements, we don't open the hips, which, as I said earlier, is why people end up needing hip replacements, because we're repeating the same behavior, the same patterns of movement, and it literally wears the bones down, just like walking across grass. If you walk backwards and forwards across the grass, you make a muddy path. So it's so important to regularly take your body through its range of movement to increase the range of movement, or to at least maintain what you've got. So I've been practicing for years. I used to do ballet as a child. I've never been able to get my knees like flat on the floor in butterfly pose. I kind of learned to accept that a while ago, but because I still can enjoy the poses, I can still get benefit. So I learned to not, to let it go. Maybe if I practice for like 10 hours a day, but who's got time to do that, right? So wherever you are is wherever you need to be. As I would say, instead of fixating on how far you think you have to go or how far you want to go, celebrate how far you've come and just take time to be in the moment of where you are right now, because you deserve to be happy, whole, complete. So you can stay here as long as you need, if and when you're ready. And start to stretch out the arms and legs, moving in whatever way. And if you feel like you need a particular stretch, if you need to iron out a little niggle, go right ahead. But when you are ready, mindfully bring yourself up to sitting. And when you come up, inhale, open the arms out. And exhale, give yourself a hug. And say with me out loud, I am enough. I am worthy. I am lovable. I am loved. I am exactly where I need to be. to bring your hands to your heart. Namaste. So much mwah, love to you. And from the fairy crew. Actually had to stop the video and start again because some of them started fighting, but